Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where we look to empower and encourage real conversation amongst men everywhere by unpacking topics on self-help, philosophy, and business. All right, welcome to another episode, everybody. It's Matt Hannum here, and I'm joined by the motley crew, starting with the infamous Travis Hato.
Oh, hoi, hoi, hoi.
Moving back around to the unlikely what? Unlikely what? I can't.
I don't know.
My brain's gone blank. Do not know how.
Don't talk about
Conrad Francis.
Hello,
Welcome,
Magic.
And JB. Yeah. Okay, so
What's up?
the smooth sounds of JB.
Well, you know what? I reckon he does it a massive injustice when he goes sup, when we've just sold him like that.
I know.
You're like, it's
Watch
not
out.
smooth. He's like, yes, up, bro.
Yes, up. Yeah, the fuck out.
You should be like, oh, welcome to Simple Minds. Do you know that there's a podcast that like he just talks and you fall asleep to him and he just like rambles on and he's got like a beautiful soothing voice?
Is that our podcast?
Is that Gary Vee?
Yeah. No, I'll
He
find
talks at 3,000 words a minute.
I'll find it and share it. It's
like that.
interesting.
Unless you
That's
got
great.
double speed.
Yeah.
Well, that's
6,000 words.
That
Imagine
would be difficult.
That's crazy.
So, gents, we're on to a whiskey today, Monkey Shoulder. I had a couple of options sitting there, and JB said, no, that one. So
We've had it
did not
before.
say that.
It's been recycled. I'm just putting it on notice.
It has been recycled.
There's not that many drinks in the world that we have had every single one of them, and we have to keep recycling, gentlemen.
That's fine.
It's actually made by Paul Chapman as well.
The Paul Chapman limited edition.
Who is this Paul Chapman? And, geez, he's been busy with life.
If you want the context of the Paul Chapman, just go back 2 episodes to the Love Languages episode and you'll...
He's been credited with a book, a new app, and now making whiskey.
He may not exist. Although I feel like I knew him, Paul Chapman. It's like maybe everyone just feels like they know Paul
I've
Chapman.
got a Paul Chapman.
Yeah, you've got a Paul Chapman? Yeah, good. Where?
Anyway,
He's a
What,
Facebook
A
friend.
Paul Chapman doll, or what do you mean?
Well, maybe we could put some Simple Mind shirts on these Paul Chapman dolls.
We should. To be. Well, coming soon. Let's do some shirts. Who wants some shirts? Let us know. Hit us up.
Everyone say,
Yeah.
aye.
Everyone say, aye. It's a podcast. So response might be delayed by a week or two, but
Put it in the comments.
put it in the comments. So Monkey Shoulder, let's get back on track. This is a interesting Friday afternoon, gents. I can feel the energy swirling around. I mean, everyone's on their phone, and no, we're good. But yeah, Monkey Shoulder. Yes, we've talked about it before. You can go back and look at some old reviews of ours. It's a nice
one.
It's a nice drop. It's always in the office, and that's probably why.
But just
It
as
gets
a point
regular-
of difference from our Talisker that we had last week,
We did.
what do you guys pick up a difference? I'd like to know before I say my 2 bobs worth.
I'm not a whiskey man, so I wouldn't have a
You
clue.
can't pick a difference?
No.
Certainly, it's a sweeter. I wouldn't know the right descriptive words to use, but
Would it be fair to say that Talisker was more peaty or mossy?
yeah,
Yeah?
This one's
this is-
very sweet.
and smoother.
Yeah, it's a very different taste.
All right, time to stop monkeying around. Let's rock and roll.
Sorry, mister, I don't understand whiskey.
Da-dum.
No, it's just monkey shoulder.
Part of
I
this
just wanted to
fucking
get that
episode
joke.
our podcast is drinking and talking about the drink,
Just
which I think we've just glossed over the last few episodes.
The whis-
Not riding in cars with comedians.
It's a Scotch whiskey called Monkey Shoulder. It's just incorporated.
There's no
into
monkeys
the
in
joke.
fucking Ireland or Scotland either, is there? I don't. Why did I say Ireland?
It's Scotland.
There's no monkeys there.
I don't know.
Well, maybe there was.
There would be one if you went there.
And on that note, let's start with
That's very judgmental, Travis.
the judgment. What's in a first impression? So, whilst Travis is being very judgmental of Conrad, we will jump into the episode. So, gents, as I mentioned, and you well know because many of you were there, and we're all actually in Melbourne at the time. I recently attended Create Your Destiny workshop with William Whitecloud, who we've listeners will know from our episode recently with him, and hopefully if you haven't listened to that one, strongly suggest that you go back and check it out. It's only a few episodes back. But this William Whitecloud Create Your Destiny event, it all in a way sounds a little bit woo-woo. And I travelled to Melbourne, many of us travelled to Melbourne to go to this event on the recommendation of one senior Conrad Francis.
Fucking hell.
And look, I have to admit that when I got
You're a skeptic, bro.
I was skeptic when I got into the room. I got into this room and I travelled a long way, and I've got a young family and a very young baby, our third child, and I looked around and there was a different group of people in the room, and look, there was actually quite a varying range of different
A lot of Travises, you say.
types of people. There was some people that looked very very hippie like, and some people that, I
didn't feel uncomfortable. I felt right at home. To be honest,
mate, that was when you were standing out in the car park with the trees. But no, I'm not saying, I was just saying, literally there was a really broad cross section of people at this event, and I was a bit skeptical about this event, and it got me sort of thinking, I really quickly start judging these people and start sort of colluding ourselves into the people that I know into a group, and we're different, and these people, maybe they're not doing much or whatever, however I'd started to judge them, and I realized that we do that dangerously fast. Some research, I pulled up a few articles, and it looks like some of the research is saying that we make these decisions within a tenth of a second, and we're judging people very quickly. But it just got me thinking about what a first impression really is, and how quickly we do make them. And I might just start by reading a couple of just an example real quick of there's an article the article is Science Says People Decide These 9 Things Within Seconds of Meeting You. So
can we share that in our new group?
We'll share that in our new group. We've just actually, that's a great point, Conrad Francis.
nice segue.
Excellent segue. We've just launched a Facebook group.
Carrying all you clowns.
Carrying where? Senior Rad. So we've started a Facebook group. If you go there, Conrad will be around. That's up to you if you want him in that proximity.
If you're stuck and constipated, I'll help you.
Be careful what you wish for. But we'll drop this article in the group, and so go check it out. Simple Minds Podcast, just a group for us to for like-minded people to just chat around any of the topics that we talk about.
Chew the fat.
We'll all be in there chewing the fat. Look, Rich, it's a great place to reach out. Any recommendations or suggestions around topics we should do, and any discussion on topics, and we'll deliver some extra content in there as it grows. But we've just started, so please do jump in. And just just Google Simple Minds. Just search for Simple Minds Podcast in your groups, and you'll find us there. But so this article, Science Says People Decide These 9 Things Within Seconds of Meeting You, and this is, I guess, one perspective, but these 9 things are pretty interesting. So if you're trustworthy, so within a tenth of a second, they make a decision as to whether you're trustworthy. If you're high status, and I guess it's like clothing based and how you present. If you're straight or gay.
Wow, really?
If you're straight or gay or Kanye.
Do you?
Because you need a category.
I don't know.
If you're smart. If you're promiscuous.
People are doing this?
If you're dominant. If you're successful, and if you're on the way to a promotion.
I can get some of them. I don't think
you don't think people.
All of them.
You don't think you. Okay.
I think the successful one.
We'll put it this way,
Straight
right?
or gay, I don't get.
Put it this.
I couldn't care less.
No, but you might not care, but you probably have made
doing it.
You've probably made a decision, right? So, if someone then asks you very quickly,
if you're trustworthy, wouldn't that be contextual?
Sure, but
you're not fucking going to the shop attendant and thinking, "Oh, you're trustworthy."
Well, why not? You are.
Why?
Because if you felt danger, you would move on. In that role, in that context, and in that relationship that you're about to have with that person, you're trusting them behind the counter and continuing on. If you felt that there was...
I know I'm having a problem with this because science says it, right?
It doesn't say Simon says. It says science.
Simple science says. Fucking science. Science doesn't have the answers for everything. We know that.
Oh, look, these are just some examples. I mean, you probably have your own list of things that,
I can get some of them. I do get some of them. I mean, obviously status. And again, I think a lot of this stuff becomes contextual in the moment that you're dealing with that person. I'm of that opinion.
Well, let's just say in a first meeting of someone, and they say that, if someone's late, 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late to a meeting, well, even then, you're being judged before you've even cited the person.
True.
Both, but in all ways, like if someone's 10 minutes early, like, okay, great. You've got, if someone's coming to a interview or otherwise, you very quickly are going to make a decision around, or make some decisions around who they are. So, yeah, I just thought it was really, really interesting. And I wonder, we make these decisions so quickly. Like, why do you think we make them?
I think it allows us to play safe. I guess that's what you're alluding to. I guess that's the only thing I can think why you would make those types of judgments on people is to give yourself a bit of line of measure.
I guess if you overlay it over our basic needs, I mean, we would look at security and things first, right? Which is why trustworthiness and that comes up, and then we would move into, I guess, seeking to collude or seeking to find community, and that's what we're doing. I mean, I guess those are all just, I suppose, 9 sort of standard ticker box type traits that we have as people.
You feel promiscuous.
Well, I mean, I guess.
Well, going back to Create Your Destiny, in the first sort of 2 hours sitting there, I started judging people. Why are these people returning, doing it again? What didn't they get out of it first time? That person's weird. But you guys went through the set A, set B examples, right, in relation to how you frame something based on your comfort. I guess that's what your tolerance and what you accepted and what you understand, versus what is possible if you open up, and I guess if you become more vulnerable. Would that be a fair? Yeah. So just to reiterate, we did an exercise where we just talked through, or not talked through, but we wrote down, I guess, some of our observations and judgments initially, and then wrote down what that would look like in a safe space, so to speak, or if a feeling of more of a greatness versus a negative side, and that's what you're talking to there, Conrad. Yeah.
Well, some of the questions, can I go through them for you guys?
Sure.
What reservations have I had about the 5-day training?
This is set A.
Set A. What judgments have I made about anything and anyone so far? What inner conflict have I experienced? How have I resolved all of the above? What messages has my subconscious been getting? Set B, as a point of difference. What vision do I have for the 5-day training? What positive end results do I expect? What passion am I committed to contributing towards the 5-day training? How have I affirmed the above? What messages has my subconscious been getting? It's all about understanding where the power is you put in those situations, right?
Yeah. Well, going back to the point that I was sitting there and I was justifying to myself why I was there and making myself feel better because I was uncomfortable by being there. So then I was judging those people just to make myself feel better.
Safer, as you're saying.
Safer. Well, that was the biggest realization for myself by doing the set A, was even going into, say, a networking event or something, how much we behave in a certain way to almost compensate for those judgments that will be coming through. And that was a massive realization for me in the set A. And even going to the course, people will judge you even if you go to a Tony Robbins thing, all about the personal development and whatnot. And then coming to something like this, people would, what's that about? And you might kind of just, brush it off of, it's nothing, because that fear of also being judged on the other side.
But the power's on the other side,
correct,
as opposed to the power being within you. It's funny because when you say safety, you assume that you're in control. But the reality is that you're not. You're giving the power away to the external.
Yeah, and I guess that's why we would make these quick determinations, because we're looking for those safe elements, and depending on where we're at in our conscious thought, the level of awareness we're at the time, we're going to overlay two different. Like you talk about that shop attendant.
Yeah.
Well, there could be multiple different angles there. I mean, let's say there's a young guy who's been in a lot of trouble recently, and he's committed crimes and things, and he might be very, very self-conscious and very aware that this person could be like onto them. Maybe he's even thinking about stealing something out of this store. I mean, but the shopkeeper might have no clue, have no understanding or awareness of what's going on in that guy's head, but he's making these quick judgments about their position, what they're thinking, what they're like, making really quick determinations on, based on even, say, this data as to whether or not they might pursue them and if they were to run out of the store or something like that. They're using this to try and profile and put that person in a box where they can.
I had a recent experience with a client who formed a judgment of me, and that was really interesting. I thought I'd get him before you do, Matty.
Was this one where I'm the client, or is this
No, it's not your judgment of me. I don't want to go into that one.
No, this is a great story, please.
Yeah, it is.
So the client was referred to me from another friend and a client of mine who I'd say is fairly successful in life, and is clearly perceived that way by the person that asked for the referral. She came in and saw me, and we had a talk about a few different things, and she's very well off from an income perspective, very, very significant income earner, but doesn't have a lot to show for it because she loves spending and living a certain way of life, which is fine. But the large part of the meeting was all about how she felt she was being judged by me. And so I let the meeting go for a bit, and then I framed it back to her about the car I drive and where I live and my aspects of life, and how it wasn't about judgment, it was just straight observation. And if she wants to change how she feels about herself, then she needs to take a longer, harder look at herself and what she's trying to get. What the end result is, what the vision is. Set A, set B type scenarios. But the funny thing was, she went back to the person that referred her and said, why doesn't he have a house, and why does he live there, and why does he drive that car? And she clearly formed an opinion on me, which pissed me off. Well, I'll be honest with you, it pissed me off because I wasn't forming a judgment of her. I was just trying to give her some safety as to where I'm coming from and why I'm speaking my truth. But that's where it went, and she went and found another advisor, and I just got informed today that she's not even proceeded there because, again, the behavioural issue that I tried to show to her is actually quite deep, and we believe that we create every outcome for ourselves, so she's creating her own outcomes at the moment, and she's not confronting her own demons by the projections that she's putting into the situation. And I think that's where we've got to be careful about this whole scenario of why we're judging people. We're judging people, you're right, to make ourselves feel safe, but is our safety actually serving us?
No, often not. I mean, another example that I'll just generally raise is I often get put in a meeting with someone and it's a new potential client, and I've often discounted it based on industry and a couple of things very quickly, and I'll be like, oh, they can't afford that. Often I'll talk them through, I'll go through the process, and but I don't think they can afford to really do anything. And then you ask the questions, because I've got some questions that I sort of actually work through and tailor, and then all of a sudden you realise, no, hang on, wow, they're doing 10 times more what I expected based on what I visually picked up and other things, and you very quickly, but you can really quickly form a judgment and let's say not take that meeting when it could be a great piece of business coming your way. And likewise, I guess, intentions of just others around you, and even family members. And look, another recent example was we obviously catch up and then there was someone around us recently who was just very quick to react and put a block on a wall whenever someone was talking to them, and they were just making very, very quick judgments before even seeking to understand the content that sat behind them. That wasn't a first impression. But it was still making a very quick judgment and just closing off our mind because that challenged that person's safety and security. And it's really interesting that we use that as just as a door, as a block to just prevent ourselves from even seeing the truth, right? It's
our language, it's our actions, it's how we see a situation. I mean, I think you made a very interesting point. I think it was you, Trav. Seek to understand, then to be understood. I think too many times we seek to be understood before we look to understand. And it's a hard one because to seek to understand needs you to be in a state of humility, to listen to a person. And I think I get where you're coming with this stuff. This is straight off the bat stuff, right? There's very little consideration given to any one of these things, which can be problematic anyway. But if you're given some time and some opportunity to not project judgment, you need to take that on board.
Yeah. Well, I think what was interesting through the course is William makes you do this on day one, which is like really powerful, and he encourages you not to hold back. So some of the stuff that people were sharing was, was pretty full on, like some big ass judgments that were being said, and I guess knowing what we know now. There's another exercise that you do through the course, which you sit across from someone, and William will make you encourage you to look at this individual in a different way, i.e. like you love them, you hate them, it's someone in power, it's this or that. It's the same individual. And it's amazing how quickly your energy will shift between this individual depending on whatever you're projecting or they're being labelled of, whatever you assume them to.
It's nasty,
be.
isn't it?
It's crazy. And the lady who I was with, she said that
give us the example.
Well, she said that my face like literally changed shape every single time that we changed this, like visually changed shape. For me, it was more energetically, like I felt different energy through, this person's powerful. Like I'm sitting there and going, my whole energy is like, oh, wow, like almost anxious and nervous because this person's like a celebrity or this or that. And it's all just perception and how we're looking at it. And what's super fascinating is when we did the judgments exercise is actually how much we judge on a day-to-day basis, and how much it's really false. Like there's no truth.
No.
There's no truth in it. Like that's the crazy bit. Like it's we do cast judgments on first impressions, but Gary Vee's a great example. Like he's very open about this. I hated him for the first few times I watched him, and then after a while, really enjoyed him. And that, if you judged him in the first 3 seconds, you're missing out on so much value. And I think he's
opinionated. He's American.
Yep.
He doesn't care.
Well,
I've heard plenty.
I think the judge. We talk about having a lot of tough conversations with yourself and looking at yourself and all of that. I think judgments can be, if you've got some awareness, a great tool of going, well, what is it about me that I'm clearly judging of others? And something that popped up in my head before was, can you judge others if you are in a true state of self-acceptance or self-love? Is that possible?
I don't think. You know what? I don't think it's possible to not be in judgment in some way, shape, or form. I honestly don't. I mean, I guess if you're talking about the truly enlightened ones, you're probably playing that game. But I mean, that's a very big step to go into a space of Mother Teresa or.
You still have to collude, right? You're still going to group and put yourself in a community somewhere.
If you're going to, well, again, you'd argue the fact that Mother Teresa created her own group.
Yeah.
If you're going to allow yourself to not judge, you really are welcoming, a very, very elite mindset. So it's not impossible, but I think on a day-to-day basis, you're worried about how people judge you, Trav, I'm sure.
I agree with you, Conrad. I don't think you can stop judgment. I think
you can limit the impact it has.
That's and the occurrence that happens as well.
The
Because if you really have no self-love and are truthful who you are, then you're walking around judging everyone. But I feel if you do have some awareness of who you are and your self-love, then I think the occurrence of the judgments are fewer and further between than the latter. Like in Control, Create Your Destiny, I put my hand up and say I was a massive judger for the first 2 hours in there because I was uncomfortable. I wanted to be safe.
Yeah.
It was quite, like reflecting on it now, even day 2, I was like, holy shit, like it was amazing how judgmental I became just to make myself feel safe in a place of uncomfortableness.
And look, there were 6 of us that knew each other quite reasonably well in there out of 50 odd in the room. Which is, and I agree with you. I was much the same. And that, imagine being
Same.
isolated completely. Like we already had a group of
Me.
people.
When I first did it.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. And you still would have just played out the same thing, right?
100%.
The same
I've got it
judgments.
there, yeah.
But like, it was interesting that even let's say very closely knowing 10% of the group, and even having a link to the person who was facilitating the group, right? Well before we'd got there, in William, we still do that and still have that, have that view. And it takes time. It takes time for that to sort of, I guess, melt down.
But it's actually very strategic in the way he places it, because obviously, as you guys now know, the opinions we have or the judgments we form are buried deep in our psyche, right? And to truly start to unpack that is a path forward. But it is just a domino effect. There's so many things that have gone into programming us the way we are today, that by becoming aware, the only thing we give ourselves is a choice. We can't change things. We give ourselves a choice to choose a different outcome in a situation.
Yeah, I'd like to just read a little piece. Actually, I was going to just paraphrase, but I think I'll just read this section. And there's been a series of experiments by Princeton psychologists Janine Willis and Alexander Todorov, not Paul Chapman.
No. Me too.
I'm sure.
Sorry, Trav.
They reference him somewhere, though.
I'm sure they reference him. He was probably the subject of these multiple experiments.
Half a second more, I would have had it.
Paul's a busy guy. But they say, look, like it or not, judgments based on facial appearance play a really powerful role in how we treat others and how we get treated. Psychologists have long known that attractive people get better outcomes in practically all walks of life. Interesting to note that mature faces receive much more severe judicial outcomes than a baby-faced person. And having a face that looks competent as opposed to, say, trustworthy or likable may matter a lot in whether a person gets elected to public office. So they conducted these experiments to study these judgments from facial appearance, each focusing on different traits like attractiveness, likability, competence, trustworthiness, and aggressiveness. And these participants were shown photographs of unfamiliar faces for 100 milliseconds, so 1/10 of a second, and were asked to immediately judge the faces.
You should do that for us.
Yeah. How? I've seen your face before.
No, for the group, let the people judge us.
Well,
I'll be the most attractive.
I just looked down and then I looked back up, and Conrad was reenacting Simba from The Lion King. So not Conrad. Travis was reenacting Simba from The Lion King.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Conrad was reenacting Pumbaa. Or was it Timon?
Oh, God.
Pumbaa's fart stink. Never stand downwind from Conrad.
No.
Get back to your article.
So I can't. I've lost it. But no, look. Yeah. So I guess no. I'm not going to. I won't read any further. But like, it was interesting to see they were flashed these photographs for 1/10 of a second, right? And they were asked to rate their
judgments.
Rate their judgments effectively.
So we are profiling people. I get what you're saying
Yep.
and what you opened with and
Yep.
where we are now. I get we are profiling people. I guess I prefer profiling than judgment. Maybe that's another thing for me. One of the same thing. Probably one's a lot less friggin', a lot less judgmental.
I think you do. I think you do both, but there is a certain element of judgment that you would still do.
I can't take you seriously right now. Can someone take a photo?
He doesn't look like Simba. He looks like the dude. He looks like the dude out of The Lion King.
Like flared.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look this way.
You're making a judgment right now.
I am.
I took my hair out, and obviously, oh yeah,
You've got a raised fringe going on up there.
It's important for us to understand, though, that, and I think if we come back to it, I mean, can we or can't we? Yes, you can, but I don't know whether it's easily achievable. I think what's easily achievable is to become very aware of what judgments you're forming and understand whether they're serving you or not.
Well, that's it. Like, how do you turn it and go, how does it serve me by judging someone else, or what can I learn from it?
Yeah. I mean, so, things like, what is that person showing me?
Well, something that I've been playing with, which we did in CYD, is the assumption that everyone has greatness, and seeing that has really helped me dissolve some of the judgments, because we're judging a lot with people around us, even in little behaviours and things that they do, and sometimes just trying to come back to having the awareness that you're judging, and then being like, oh, actually, there's greatness there, and trying to see someone's greatness. I think the instance you're talking about, Matt, some of us were present. I was present in that conversation around the individual putting up their wall, and what helped me a lot was trying to acknowledge their greatness and their potential, and for me that's been quite
that's
powerful.
A great space to play from, and I think that's one way to neutralise judgment straight away.
But you see a person's good rather than they're bad.
Yeah, but it is.
Is that not judgment? In what's the opposite judgment? What do we come to terms with? Non-judgmental. Fuck that.
No, but see, I think it all comes back to the
Forgiveness
actions
was one of
after.
them.
So like this, the study goes on to sort of say that they did these exposures for 1/10 of a second, and then they gave them.
I'd look like a model in 1/10 of a second, just quietly.
Yeah. Okay, and then they
2/10
gave them.
I'm fucking
They
dead.
gave them a lot more time to look.
Someone's affirming himself a
Yeah.
lot today.
This goes back to love languages just a little.
Sorry, man.
I'm looking for affirmation over there.
Can I have a gift, please?
Here's a gift.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
That's not a gift.
No, it's nothing else.
So when they looked for 1/10 of a second, it became apparent that then they gave them the opportunity to look for without a time constraint, and they were still highly correlated. So
really?
we're making these judgments very fast, and we can do it within 1/10 of a second. So then I think it's all about our actions thereafter, or our current mindset.
So hang on. So just clarify the 1/10 of a second, and then when they're given more time, that hasn't changed their judgment.
So it didn't change their judgments, but longer exposure times did increase the confidence in the judgments, but they were
But you've
highly
already framed it
correlated.
already, though. You've already framed. So you almost.
You framed
it's
it,
it's
right.
almost like a bias has been created.
That's why we don't believe in science.
Yeah.
Trustworthiness was the one with the highest correlation. And that makes sense because I think that's the first thing you're worried about, like safety.
Yeah.
That's probably like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy, I think that's like one of the first things we'll deal with before we sort of start to move into community and everything else. So
I'm considered intimidating. It really pisses me off.
Okay.
No, I'm true. I'm being honest with you. That's a lot of the things I get told is that I'm intimidating, and it does fuck with me.
Yeah, but intimidating in what? Like when? Where someone hasn't met you, if intimidating.
Yeah, a large part of it is that. I mean, when it comes back to me, like people turn around and say, we initially found you intimidating, and I think, well, why?
I can see why, but
No, I can see why
Likewise.
too. But in the moments, I mean, I've gotten a lot better with it these days. But for a long time, I really, really didn't understand it.
I think it probably has something to do with your passion as well, and passion can certainly, like the delivery of passion can be a real challenge for people.
Yeah, I remember I similar bloke. A lot of people call me arrogant, and it's just that kind of fucked me for a long time as well. But I came to the conclusion that I was just more happy with myself than the other person, or the person that was judging me to be arrogant.
So that's the other side of the game, right? Is what the referencing does to the person that you're judging.
Yeah.
Because it does. It short circuits, or it has short circuited me, where I spend too much time trying to resolve that, as opposed to moving past that.
It sort of like moved me into a position, just going back to my original story and then really considering this and having some awareness around it. And I realized that largely, I mean, if I'll go down a slightly more spiritual line with this, but effectively we are all, Can you just give me some soundtrack there, Hato? Some soundtrack, some energy. Hey, did you bring some candles?
I'll give you background music.
Okay, I'll turn you off. Hang on, you're mic 3.
All right, sorry, go.
To go down a more spiritual line, we're all energy. We're all made up of the same stuff at the molecular level, and I realize that so many of the
My stuff's dark.
Jeez.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, and at this level, I think we are just judging ourselves, and so everything we're seeing in other people is just some judgments that we're making on ourselves.
you're going down the projection path.
Just straight projection, and I really dug into that for a while, and I realized like that I'd be just focused on the negative side of someone's like and judging part of them, but then there's a whole nother area that I knew existed, but that my focus was just I was just projecting on what I didn't like about them, which was helping
me feel good about myself.
No, me feel not good about myself.
Okay.
Actually.
Either, I guess. I mean,
either way,
yep.
But helping me reaffirm, like, let's say, areas that I still felt lack in or, whatever. And I realized that, much of that was just a projection out. And if I was just feeling generally, I guess, say, safe and comfortable in it, then I wouldn't maybe have been...
Well, they'll talk about the ego at play with this stuff, right? I mean, I think that's what we've got to understand is that your ego plays, in the absence of being conscious of being aware, your ego is in overdrive. Okay, and unless you're aware of that, then you can't choose a different alternate path to create anything different. So, but notwithstanding the fact that once you become aware that this is at play, that doesn't mean you have to choose an alternate path either. You're just aware that the ego's at play, and you've got to be okay with where it's taking you, if not change that path.
Well, the ego will always be at play.
Yeah.
To a certain, you can't.
Yeah, so
turn off the ego.
you're just aware to what it's doing for you or what it's not doing for you, and then choose the path you want.
So that's where I became just aware of some of those projections and judgments that I was quickly doing, and then just reframing it and helping.
Have you got anyone in particular you want to talk about? You're a judgmental kind of bloke, mate. Let's be honest.
No. Well, let's. Just,
You're an accountant.
You know what? I calculated this the other day, and I realised that I've been
Created a spreadsheet.
not an accountant for an awful lot longer than I ever was one.
In my book, your job title is accountant.
In my book, you're fired. Sorry, mic off. Okay, the Simple Minds podcast is now so.
On an example, just have you got a specific
sure. Okay.
front of mind? I know you talked about a reason.
In particular, look, and I'll use a person specifically. Hopefully she's not listening right now, but it's okay if she is. But my sister-in-law has been through a lot of challenges in the last, let's call it 12 to 24 months, and a lot of those have been family-related and with her child and her partner, and there's been a lot of really difficult things, and she's made a lot of really, really poor choices that have impacted her badly. And I had gotten to a point where I really didn't like her presence, like in our house, and there's a lot of good in her, but the bad stuff just really frustrated me, and I didn't enjoy her being around because of that. And then I why am I creating this energy in myself about her when it's just not needed? I don't need it, and she can be there. That's fine. She's amazing with my kids. She's like, there's a lot of great attributes that she's got.
So have you dealt with the projection? I have you considered what she's showing you, or set A, set B type stuff?
Yeah, I haven't really fully got that answer. I'm not exactly sure what she is showing me there, but
yeah, you are.
Oh, well, okay. I am probably, but I haven't actually put the time in to dig into.
It'd be interesting for you to do that. Yeah. It really would be, because everyone is serving everyone at the highest level, right? I mean, I guess if you play that game and understand and apply what you guys have learnt, everyone's in service.
So, yeah, everyone's here for a different reason, and I could. Yeah. So the thing is, I realized that I would get myself really worked up around it because I was just frustrated with some of the choices and decisions and
projection.
And it was just projection. And so I've just very quickly learnt to take very quick stock and awareness of that, and just change my path before that even got to a point where I was letting it affect my own mental state. And at times it was affecting my mental state.
Truth, wisdom, and love. Truth, wisdom, and love.
I mean, this could be a whole other episode, but on that, I mean, the power seems to really be driven from that level of self-awareness, and interesting thing from doing the course was like a lot of people talk about self-awareness and being self-aware, but it was not really until I did this these 5 days to be like, oh, like I've been talking about self-awareness
At a very superficial
at
level.
a very superficial level, and it's full of shit. Like,
And everything you read online is fucking shit.
yeah, and people who are like, I'm self-aware.
That was a judgment.
Yeah, you are not.
Man, you used to use self-aware probably the most, I reckon.
Sorry?
The word self-aware was like a really big word that we've used a lot. And I would
Yeah.
agree, like and it's only scratching the surface, right? There's so much more, but sorry.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're only just scratching the surface, but yeah, it's just super fascinating of like what having true self-awareness means, and like as Matt just pointed out, only just scratching the surface, and still a long way to go, and that's what allows you to make the choices, as you referred to Conrad, like to then see what's happening and make a choice for an alternative.
Well, I'm really cool. I mean, I won't do it on air, but I'm really, and I'd love to do it with you post this podcast if you've got the time, is to actually figure out the issue with your sister-in-law, because I reckon that one's a cracker.
Sure. Okay.
I love this shit.
I may or may not post the answer to that. No, well, I don't think. Well, it might be an answer. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, no, it's good to do, and that's the thing. Like even that, I knew it, and I even had made a change in my approach, but I still didn't actually invest the time to become a little bit more aware as to why that impacted me and was doing that.
The issue is when you look to allay, or I wouldn't even say allay, when you choose to have the power, when you choose to take your power back in the situation, i.e. take it away from the situation or the person and back into yourself, the amount of confidence you give yourself as opposed to safety is very, very different. And I think that's the issue, is creating confidence for yourself to make better decisions and form better judgments. I don't think we can exclude, I don't think we can avoid them. I know I can't avoid judgments. But I think when you have the power, you have the ability to make better ones.
I think that's where, I guess what I was trying to communicate before with the self-awareness piece, when you realize that there was a real weird feeling of liberation by having that realization that you do have the power, and that no one does have the power. Even in those moments, no one has the power over you. And we talk about self-responsibility and all starting with you, but it wasn't until doing some of this, even the set B, set A stuff, realizing how much the power sits with you, did it really click. And it's probably a bit hard to explain and express, but it does start with you.
Yeah, you've got to want a different outcome. To mine your thought process, you've got to want a different outcome. Otherwise, okay, we'll keep playing in the shitty soil that you're playing in. But if you want a different outcome, then fine. Start questioning yourself differently. Firstly, what is that person showing me for me?
That's true, right? Because it's fucking a lot easier just to judge and just to stay there and just be happy
leave the
with
shit
that.
there.
Just keep
You dump
finding
your
more.
baggage there. Fuck you. I don't like you. See you later. But the truth is that doesn't resolve the problem.
That's why Obama came out. Did you hear Obama's speech recently about the youth and just judging?
I heard snippets. I didn't hear the whole lot.
He basically just came out and said, don't just judge and be part of the problem on social media.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually being part of the solution.
Solution, no, exactly right.
Which was really quite interesting to hear, and that concept.
But we do that. We do that all. Well, I say we. It's probably me, because you guys are all millennials, right? Yeah, I think you're on the upper cusp. And I don't do it a lot with you clowns. I mean, I do judge millennial generation a lot, but I don't doubt that my mum and dad's generation judge me either. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's one that we do en masse every fucking day.
Yeah.
It's true. All right. Well, yeah. Don't judge. Don't judge people.
I don't think we cannot judge. I think we will judge.
It was a joke, mate. It was a joke. I'm just judging you now. Shut up.
Am I intimidating you?
Yeah, actually, I'm a little bit intimidated. I might wrap this up. Actually, you just saved me. I was going to pull that up on the phone, but if you want to sing it instead.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle.
What's he looking at me for? He looks like a fucking lion.
I just said the wrong name. That's all I did. But no, look, yeah, it's really interesting. Why don't you, next time well, in a minute, you'll probably run into somebody and just have consider, like, if you get in your car, you get out of the car, the first person you see, I mean, people walking down the street, like we're making quick judgments, right?
I mean, again, if you're going to get to the end of this podcast, let's give you something to take away. Spend some time tonight thinking about a person that's in your proximity that you formed a judgment on that is not serving you right now, i.e., you don't like being around them, or they're showing you stuff that you don't, or they're holding you accountable to a level that you don't like. Sit with it and ask yourself, what are they teaching me? And you may not get the answer straight away. I don't expect you to, but sit with it long enough to get the answer that is trying to come out, that your ego is not allowing to. Whether it's overnight or a day or two, just come back and refer to that question and just see where it gets to.
And there you have it. So would you like to wrap the rest?
Please like, share or comment on our socials. Thanks for bringing it up, Maddie. I mean, it's a great topic, and it's one that is a work in progress for every single person on this planet, should they want to be their best version of themselves.
Solid point.
Okay, and just on that note, I think it's probably time to release the fact that we're bringing William Whitecloud to WA, Perth, Western Australia. It's on the 12th of February to the 16th of February. The event will be held in West Perth. There'll be links put up on our website. The earlier you get in, the better, because there are limited seats. And it's very worthwhile for anybody looking for the opportunity to grow and self-reflect and to understand themselves some more. Gentlemen, you've just done it. I've done it a couple of years ago. What are your takeaways in one sentence?
Self-awareness.
Head explosion emoji.
Head explosion emoji. Yeah, that was floating around a bit in that group.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I can do it in a couple of words, but no, I really found it the most powerful set of techniques of personal development that I've been through, and I've recommended it to many people, and I couldn't recommend it enough.
I second that. It's not like this is the way to live life. It's here's a bit of framework. You apply it to yourself. I think, which is really powerful.
And it'll give you better conversations, deeper conversations, more meaningful relationships, and connect you guys with us.
It's not a rah-rah pump you up type thing. Very, very.
Everyone say aye.
Jump up and down.
All right, like, share, and comment. We'd love to hear your stories. Judging, non-judging. If you're going to sit and persist with the work, I'd love to know the outcome.
No joke.
Over and out. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Simple Minds podcast. If you like our show and want to know more, then check out our website at simplemindspodcast.com. If you like, you can even leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or share this episode with a friend. The Simple Minds podcast is also on Facebook, Insta, and for those that like to keep things formal, LinkedIn. So follow us there if you want to keep up with the latest updates from the show. See you next week.